Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Fandom Post Radio podcast. I am your engineer, Kate, and joining me this week is a full house. We have Brandon.
Hello.
Kestrel.
Hi.
Cain.
Yo.
And DJ's here.
Yo.
Shocking. This has been a minute since we've had everybody here, all the regulars.
True. Once a year.
We have so many fake movies to talk about.
So many fake movies. So we've got a whole lot of news from various news situations that have happened since our last recording. And then we'll move on to a mid-season check on the animes. But Kestrel, what we got on the news docket?
Yeah, so from moments after our last recording, as we said, we were right on the eve of the Academy Award nomination announcements, and we were pretty certain that The Boy and the Heron would be nominated for Best Animated Feature. Of course it was. As we discussed in that episode, it had already won the Golden Globe for that category, and I think just last night it also won the BAFTA. And if you follow these things at all, there are like 50 pre-Oscars awards that all pretty much guarantee the same things win. But the BAFTAs in particular have like all of the exact same categories, and almost always everything wins all the same categories. So if they won that, it's probably going to win the Oscar.
Nice. Yeah, my friend asked me about which movie to pick for the animated category, because I guess the movie theater he goes to most often is doing a thing where if I don't know if you have to get it 100%, but out of all the entries, they have a contest for the Oscars. Whoever gets the most gets free movies for like a year or something. And I honestly didn't know which one to tell him because I don't pay attention too much to them. But Spider-Man or the Boy and the Heron. I was like, you have Spider-Man, which I enjoyed more as a movie, but then also it's a Miyazaki movie it's up against. So you have an insane legacy in a movie that was still well regarded and made a lot of money, so that's definitely a fucking toss-up, but
yeah, it's definitely between those two. I think Spider-Man is by far the better movie in every way, but yeah, it's Miyazaki's first movie in a decade, decent chance of it being his last. Spider-Man is a sequel to a movie that already got the award. It's not even a complete story. It's a comic book movie. It's a superhero movie. It's got kind of a lot of things going against it winning again. So I think if it weren't for all of that, yeah, it would be a shoo-in. But as it is, probably Boy and the Heron.
Yeah,
and Suzume did not
win.
Yeah. Suzume did not get a nomination like it did for the Golden Globes. We were talking about that possibility, but there are only 5 slots for the Oscar, so extremely unlikely you're going to get 2 anime movies in a year.
What were the others? I honestly have no idea on many of these categories.
Let me see what those were. So obviously 2 of the 5 were Boy and the Heron and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. The other ones were Elemental, the Pixar movie, which was pretty meh for a Pixar movie, but certainly the best thing Disney had going for it this year. And then a couple of smaller ones, a Netflix movie called Nimona, and one called Robot Dreams, which is a Spanish-French production.
Huh. I haven't heard of that one. I heard of Nimona. It's come up in my Netflix suggested a few times.
Nimona was one of those situations where it was in development. They shut down the studio that was making it because it got sold to Disney, or so whoever ended up buying the studio that had been making it at the time got restarted by other people. And so it's kind of a miracle that even got made.
Yeah, and Robot Dreams I haven't seen either, but I think they were doing a premiere of it at the Animations Film Festival, so I probably should have checked that out.
Interesting. Well, I guess we'll see. Hopefully, I think in the end I may have told him to go with the Miyazaki pick because it was more, like legacy and filmy in a way. So even though it's not the better movie, it's going to win because of that. So hopefully he took my advice.
Yeah. Yeah, Oscars tend to veer away from franchises when possible. So
right.
So gotta think like the Academy voter.
Right. And again, at this point, like, you don't even have to think. You just have to cheat off everyone else's paper because there are so many other award shows that can predict it anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, next piece of news. So there is going to be more Space Brothers anime at some point. The manga is coming to an end. It hasn't been simul-published for a while, I don't think. Maybe Kodansha's still doing it. I know it used to be on Crunchyroll when they were doing a bunch of simul-pubs, mostly Kodansha titles. And then they just dropped it without saying anything and removed the entire back catalog. And now, of course, there is no manga at all on Crunchyroll. So I haven't read it in a few years, but it has supposedly been approaching its end for a while now. And yeah, the author announced that once the manga ends, there will be more anime, presumably to cover the remainder of the series. So that's pretty cool.
That one's been on my I should watch that list since I like really got back into anime like a decade ago. So should really get into that at some point.
Yeah, I think you and me both. It seems like it'd have a lot of stuff that I would like, but it's also a relatively long series, it seems, so I've never been able to give it the time that it needs.
Exactly. And
I
like
think,
Kestrel, like you mentioned, like doesn't have a lot of good access to it currently, so
yeah, unfortunately, not only did Crunchyroll drop the manga entirely, but Kodansha never released it on physical books. So the only way to read it is, I think, to buy digital volumes from Kodansha, which is ultra shitty. Especially since I think the manga is much better than the anime. I love the anime, but the manga is phenomenal. So hopefully the new anime can have kind of better, more consistent production values. I think just the nature of, being constantly ongoing for like 100 episodes made it, not as high quality as it would like to be all the time. Of course, it was airing entirely within the span of the 150 episodes that Hunter x Hunter was airing, and within half an hour of it dropping on Crunchyroll. So I always had the impossibly high expectation for it to live up to right next to it, because it's like, if Hunter x Hunter can be this good every week, then why do you look like shit half the time?
That's just no fair.
But yeah, hopefully they can pull together a little more resources for this next round. Still a very good series. Highly recommend.
I know it's Blu-rays and stuff always go on sale super cheap, and all of those like sales that they have all the time, they're trying to almost give them away after a certain point.
Yeah, I get the feeling it didn't do very well.
Is it just like the High School of the Dead OVA? They'll be like Space Brothers season 1, 2, and 3, but whatever you got in your pocket.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Okay. Next piece of news. So, the original Fate Stay Night visual novel that started the whole massive Fate franchise is over 20 years old now. And back in the 10th anniversary, they had an event for it, in which they announced the anime adaptation by UFO Table, which would be a TV series covering the Unlimited Blade Works route, and then movie trilogy covering Heaven's Feel. And now for the 20th anniversary, they had another such event, and they announced a few kind of events, concerts, special things in Japan, some re-releases of media, but also for the English audience, they announced that for the first time, that 20-year-old game that started it all would finally be getting an official English release this year. DJ, thoughts?
Honestly, I'm surprised. Well, I wanna read it first before I weigh in, I guess, on it. Because the Mirror Moon translation, the group that originally did it, I didn't think it was bad, but I was also like fucking 12. So I don't know how well it holds up, because it's been a hot minute since I have read that game. But I feel like, oh, you know what? If they're taking the sex scenes out, which they are, I guess that kind of throws out the thing that I was gonna say, where they're gonna need some rewriting in that regard. Because I've seen some screen caps of those recently, and those definitely don't hold up from a textual point. They're not good.
You're telling me no more dolphins?
No, I mean it's just all gonna be dolphins in the new
isn't it dolphins?
Wait, only dolphins?
It's just dolphins
No.
everywhere in the new one. Yeah, I don't like that. I'm glad that it's getting an English release because it's arguably the best visual novel ever. But they are taking out content that I feel is very important to the story as a whole. Where the first couple routes can survive without sex scenes, but when you get to Heaven's Feel, I feel like they're just so important to Sakura's character development that removing them and just replacing them with implied sex is not. It's going to rob people of a lot of the intimacy, literally, that you feel growing between Shiro and Sakura, and I felt like that sort of codependency that they create with one another was such a big part of Heaven's Feel. And I don't know how it will function without those things. And it's just such a good route that I don't like the idea of people not getting the full experience. Like, it's just, I don't know. I don't like messing with what I see as perfection, which is what they're doing, because sex is evil and you're not allowed to have that anymore.
Now,
so also just icky, really, if you think about it.
Yeah, it's just gross.
It's gross, yeah. I don't need it. No, it's gross. Pass.
I don't know exactly how they handle these scenes, but most Fate Stay Night releases for the past 20 years have been the all ages versions, of course, because as soon as it turned into a successful franchise, then whenever they were going to re-release it, it was going to be not pornographic. So they, the anime adaptation of Heaven's Feel does still have sex scenes, and it's not like they cut away or anything. They just, don't show you a censored vagina. So I feel like as long as they do that, which of course millions of people who have played the all ages versions over the past several decades already know the answer to that, because it's just the same version that's been re-released all these years, then I think that should be sufficient, right? I can't see that being such a big issue. If they replace it all with dolphins, then yeah, that might rob a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're still getting the dialogue in those scenes, which I don't think you are, I think that they're just removed. I think that it works. It's just there are going to be a lot of gaps in the story, because Heaven's Feel has a lot of fucking sex scenes. Like, there are like 10 minimum. And that's just a big chunk of game and a lot of dialogue, and some important shit happens in some of those scenes, if I'm remembering correctly. But I might not be, because it's been years and years. I just, like I said, don't like robbing people of the full experience, and it's there. I'm also worried in regard to the new English translation about whether or not they're taking any new, like if they're changing anything. Because I haven't looked into it at all, but I also don't like the idea that a lot of the people who are going to be getting this are the people who found Fate through Grand Order, and that is of noticeably worse writing quality. And so I don't know if they're gonna like dumb it down for those people, but that's another worry I have. We'll see, though.
I mean, I feel like anyone who's gonna jump into this 100-hour visual novel at this point has surely at least consumed like the UFO table adaptations of these roots. So I feel like, and it's Aniplex that's putting it out, so I feel like it's gonna be consistent with those.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see how people receive the visual novel after experiencing the UFO table anime, because they're really good adaptations, and I had the visual novel first. So it's like, I don't know if it's gonna lessen the quality or just add more context, because they're very loyal for the most part. And I don't want people to just get bored seeing the same thing in just a way that is 50 times longer.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of. I'm sure I'll buy it, but I don't know that I'll actually play it at all. I almost certainly will not finish it because
It's
that's
long.
just so much time investing for a story that, yeah, I've
And you've
already.
got to do it in order too. So you've got to do like the
Right,
normal Fate Stay Night, then
right.
Unlimited Blade Works. Yeah. So you can't even jump to like the crazy good route.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I
And
did
I mean,
hear in another release that they did that they just let you choose now, though. So maybe you'll be
okay.
able to. Yeah.
Interesting. Do you think that's a good way to do it, though?
Absolutely not. No.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that at all.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I guess I'm curious about the Fate route itself because I've never really experienced that story without all the weird shit that the Studio Dean adaptation did.
Yeah. You know, for
But
the most part
yeah,
though, like if you like get rid of some of the weird shit, the Dean adaptation is decently loyal.
okay,
It gets really muddy when they start like throwing shit from the other routes in while also adding stuff that didn't happen in any routes. But
right.
like the bare bones, the foundation of it is similar and it like ends in the same area, I guess.
Mhm.
It was good enough where like I watched the Dean anime first, and when I was playing the visual novel for the first time, I knew what choices to make because I knew like what the right things were.
That
So
makes sense. Yeah.
Mm.
But I mean, people generally don't think that that route is very good, right?
it is probably the weakest of the three, but that doesn't mean that it's not very good.
Okay. All
It's
right.
just mostly exposition. Like that's the thing.
Mhm.
Just so I'm aware, were none of the original like 3VN routes had official releases, or just like one of them? Like
Yeah, I mean, it's just one game, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's never been officially released.
okay.
The latter two had, very faithful direct anime adaptations, whereas the original Dean anime kind of adapted mainly Fate and sprinkled in some stuff from the other ones, and then some original content, and then they also did like a rush through movie adaptation of Unlimited Blade Works. But in terms of the visual
Yeah,
novel
that
itself,
movie
we've never
isn't
gotten
good.
it. Yeah,
That movie's
no,
not good.
no.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always down for more of the good Fate, so I'm glad that it's going to make more money. I just am worried that that money's going to go right back into Grand Order
Oh, of course.
I mean, where else are they gonna put it?
Yeah.
into something good.
I mean, to be fair, like most of the Fate media that we've gotten in the past decade, I mean, most of it's been Grand Order, but what hasn't been has been paid for by Grand Order.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, back in
funding the
like,
life of the series, but at what cost?
right, yeah. Yeah, I don't care too much about Fate anymore. Um, like after the last Heaven's Feel movie, I was pretty much done. And the new one that is starting, I don't know when, but they had the premiere of the like special that like kind of a pilot deal at AX last year.
Strange Fake.
Strange Fake, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
That one seemed interesting, so I could check that out. But
I like
yeah,
the premiere actually, so I'm actually I haven't looked forward to one of these in a minute, so
Yeah.
strangely enough, I'm excited for it.
definitely haven't been like passionate about it since Heaven's Feel ended, and I don't imagine that I will be again. If I had all the time in the world, then I would be interested to get through this VN, but it's probably not going to happen.
No.
Okay. Next, so we've had kind of a common theme of big news announcements over the past few years, which has generally been, remember all those companies that used to exist? Well, now they don't because they're just Crunchyroll now. And the biggest one of those, of course, was Funimation. 2 years ago now, Crunchyroll announced that it was kind of taking over the brand and the Funimation brand would go away. And that happened pretty immediately in most regards. But the website for Funimation has still existed. The apps have still existed. They've continued to add new simulcasts and dub episodes for series that Funimation had streamed before. They still had hundreds of titles that were only on Funimation, not on Crunchyroll. But they finally announced after 2 years that the Funimation app and website, and presumably brand entirely, will go away on April 2nd. So hopefully by then we'll have everything converted over to Crunchyroll service. But yeah, it should officially be the end of the Funimation brand forever.
And we'll usher in a pretty intense price hike for Crunchyroll.
Yeah, and a couple of announcements came with it. I think these were only sent to people who currently had a Funimation membership. One of them is, of course, the whatever they call download to own is not actually ownership. Of course, you were only ever licensing the ability to watch the series or whatever you had on their service. I think it only
physical media.
Yeah, right.
I'm glad I never cared about those codes that came with the physical Blu-rays because I knew, well, A, the Crunchyroll video player, and B, I kind of suspected this would happen. So,
and I mean, I guess it's better than. I don't think they really had a direct download service necessarily. I think it was mostly just with the physical releases. So you already had them in order to get these codes to download the media. So hopefully it won't be like too devastating to people. But yeah, of course it is dumb that when you feel like you're downloading something to own, it's really just when the service goes away, your access to it goes away. And then another thing, like DJ mentioned, the price, people kind of got out of hand about the screenshot of the message that they sent to people who had a Funimation membership, because it seemed like they were going to pay like twice as much now, but that's only because the Funimation subscription price has been much lower for the past several years because it hasn't had anything. The Crunchyroll membership is maybe increasing a little bit depending on your tier, but it's about where it's been. It's like whatever, 100 a year or something.
Yeah, I think people mistook the screenshot because it was like a legacy account that had like the old price, which is why it was getting hiked up so much. But yeah, still.
And like when they announced that the brand was moving over to Crunchyroll 2 years ago, they were even like, cancel your Funimation membership right now. It's like worthless, dude. You don't want it. Granted, in that season, they still had Funimation exclusive simulcasts, so you literally couldn't cancel it yet if you were watching them. But after that season, they started doing all their simulcasts on Crunchyroll, and like I said, the ones that were continuations of Funimation series would also be on Funimation, but there wasn't really a reason to be subscribed to Funimation after that point.
Oh yeah, it looks like I completely misunderstood how that price thing works looking at it again. So
yeah, everyone did. Yeah. I had the same reaction initially as well.
Yeah. Cool, that's good to know at least.
Yeah. So anyway, end of an era, just like Right Stuff, just like everything. It's all just Crunchyroll now.
It's all Sony. Everything's Sony.
Yes. I mean, yeah, that's been the case for a while, but now it is all one specific brand of Sony. Hooray!
All right. Over here going, wait, the new guy in charge of the games is going, wait a minute, what the hell is this fucking shit? It's like, these economics don't work. It's like, yeah, no shit, video game industry's broken, my dude. Everything's shit. That's all you need to know. Everything's shit.
Next piece of news. So the creator of Chainsaw Man, Tatsuki Fujimoto, has created a few very well-regarded one-shots in between Chainsaw Man arcs, and a couple of them were like full volume length, and then one was shorter one that he did as a collaboration. But the first of those, Look Back, is getting an anime film. It is going to be written, directed, and character designs by the director of Flip Flappers. That's kind of his one big role so far. And it's also going to be animated at his animation studio. So the guy is Kiyotaka Oshiyama, and his studio is Studio Durian, which has helped out on a few projects, but this is kind of its first like main solo production. Thoughts, Brandon?
I'm really jazzed about this. I think that because between like the two big one shots that he's made since Chainsaw Man, I always thought that Goodbye Eri would be more fitting for getting a movie adaptation.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing as Look Back came first, I think it's only fair that it gets its just desserts. And I think it's an incredible little one shot. It's a very emotional little story, really well made. Very, it's going to be different than I think what people have come to expect from Fujimoto. Like I said, a little more down to earth, but yeah, I could not be any more excited. And even with the director being like relatively like not a lot of directorial credits behind him, I think Flip Flappers was a really underrated show for its time. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I did a little review for Look Back, by the way, for the Fandom post, if anyone listening would like to read it.
Very in-depth review.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited, and I do imagine that, assuming it does well, Eri will get a film as well, because, yeah, it's the same length. It's definitely just begging to be a theatrical feature film, and Look Back is, very much about manga, so it made a lot of sense to be a manga, but certainly no reason that it couldn't be a phenomenal animated film as well, so...
Yeah, I think that's the most the thing I'm interested in seeing how they handle is how they portray like the passage of time, because like you said, Look Back definitely works better as a manga because it's about creating manga, and I feel like it'll be interesting to see how it's paced out. Whereas he totally made Goodbye Eri with the intention that it becomes a film one day. So
right,
a little different in approach, but. Nonetheless, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah. All right. I guess we can get to our last piece of news here. So, yeah, I'm going to give a lot of history with this one, but basically the headline is Media OCD announces acquisition of Animego home video business. So, yeah, for those who don't know, Media OCD is the post-production company of past guest of this podcast and now my good friend Justin Savakis, who also, founded Anime News Network, has been very involved in the anime fandom and industry and journalism throughout the decades. And he's generally been known as like the best disc author in the industry. And so, he has this post-production company. He's hired a few employees over the years. They do really high-quality work. They do all of Discotek's discs, as well as, some discs for other clients, like Anime Limited in the UK. I think a few G-Kids discs, stuff like that. So they have, generally been in that business. Now... We didn't cover this on the podcast because it's not anime related, but earlier this year, it was all last year. I can't remember when he announced it, but he started his own licensing business for like live action indie films called Whole Grain Pictures, and so he made that a subsidiary of Media OCD as well. So Animego is, of course, maybe not of course, because they've been kind of under the radar for a very long time, but they are the oldest anime licensing company in the Western world. And they're still going in one form or another after all this time. That was founded by Robert Woodhead, who I only found out recently was the creator of what was the game Wizardry?
Wizardry, yeah.
Yeah, which was like the first computer RPG ever, like the first video game RPG ever. What's an earlier one?
Oh, there are earlier ones.
Name one.
With pictures, well, that was early Wizardry didn't really have pictures either, but
anyway,
I could get into it, but it's like, there's a lot there.
Well, in the absence of any example to the contrary, it's the first RPG video game, and very directly always cited as, along with another one called Ultima, the inspiration for Dragon Quest, and subsequently, generally, the JRPG industry. Also cited by, Final Fantasy and all the other big franchises that started in those days. So, yeah, he was a huge influence in video games, and then he started this anime licensing company, which was also pretty pioneering and innovative, trailblazing for what it was. And he's been keeping it going in one form or another ever since. It's been mostly doing Kickstarters lately. I think Justin has been doing the discs for them anyway. Not sure if he's done all of them, but yeah, basically, Robert's been in this business for many decades. He's been running it with his wife all the while, and he's decided to retire and turn it over to Justin, who he felt was the best person for the job, and Justin accepted. And so now, we have this all under the home of the best indie anime releases that you can get. So that's pretty exciting.
Congrats
Maybe
to
an
Justin.
affordable Blu-ray copy of Riding Bean will come out now, which would be really fucking nice, considering the only time I've ever seen it was at Otakon from an Animego set, like a Blu-ray release, and it's only like 40 minutes long, and they wanted $78. I was like, nah, absolutely fucking not.
Ugh.
Because Riding Bean's one of the best like car animes, at least especially from like that 90s era. It's just, I don't really know of many ways to watch it legally, and you could purchase it, yeah, but it's at a cost of approximately $2 a minute.
Right.
Yeah, there were games before Wizardry.
Okay.
They were the first like computer RPG was literally just called Dungeon, and then there was one just called D&D that was an adaptation of D&D, and then there's a bunch of other ones that are like 5 character words because mainframes.
I like how simple it all was back then.
It was very it was a simpler time, literally. Because shit had to fit in a thing that wouldn't even like run a toaster oven nowadays. So
the progenitor of the JRPG industry, at any rate.
Basically, yeah.
Wizardry.
One of the most popular one in Japan, which is wild.
Yeah,
completely wild, crazy shit.
Nice seeing a win for the little guy, and not another thing getting swallowed up by Crunchyroll.
Yeah, I'm supportive of the retiring company handing stuff down to the slightly younger guns.
Yeah,
I'm all for that.
Totally.
Keep that legacy going.
Exactly. Yeah, so that's all I got for news.
Can we talk about one other thing real quick? It happened super recently, so
yeah.
Can we talk about the lovely Complex dub and this whole thing with Discotech for a couple minutes? Because this should be wild.
Okay.
I feel like I've only been seeing the aftermath reverberation of this, and most of it just being like, wow, what the hell is that guy talking about? His career's over, and I have no idea what even the problem with the lovely, what the dub, I don't know really much about this, so I'm very interested.
So it was to summarize it based off of your questions, Brand. So the first thing is the guy who's a YouTube content creator. Mm-hmm. He was put in charge of writing the new dub for Discotech for Lovely Complex, and I guess the original Japanese subtitle version and script, like many anime in general, the humor sometimes needs to be slightly changed so American audiences can get it, or like the punchline, whatever, needs to be changed occasionally, etc. Because you can't do a one-to-one translation, or the jokes just kind of won't hit for a lot of people. Which that in of itself is not a problem or necessarily an issue. It's when you go to make all these changes and then go onto your Patreon and just talk shit about like how shitty the anime is and how much you hate all the characters, and even though you like the script you wrote, you wouldn't recommend anybody watch it under any circumstances.
And then claim that you changed a bunch of shit to make it better that was already that way, so you were basically making shit up?
Yep.
Which was the more confusing part of this whole tirade, is that people are like, wait a minute, that's how it was originally, though. What are you talking about? You didn't change anything.
Yeah, so then essentially Discotech just cut ties with them and said, like, this is super unprofessional because, yeah, it is. And they're going to keep sort of the subtitle stuff and some of those jokes in there the same, at least in the subtitle version. One of the things I read about that this YouTube person had an issue with was there's some transphobia stuff in there, like some transphobic jokes in the character with a character, and they wanted to change all of that. And I could see some merit in doing it, but I guess they basically just changed them without saying much of anything at all, and then dunked on it anyway. So it's this feels relatively unprecedented. Like, I can't remember any time seeing this happening, where someone gets a job writing a dub script and everything and then gets separated before it's released because they disliked it so much. Like,
it's so weird too, because he wasn't even like, he was like a subcontractor. It's like his friend who was actually working on the project hired him to help out. And the whole situation is just bizarre. It's like, I've never seen such a colossal self-own. And he was like upfront about realizing that he was probably like screwing himself out of any future job doing any of this kind of shit. So I'm like, why would you do this? Why are you doing this?
Yeah, so then Discotech a couple days ago, and Justin Zavakis put out a statement just saying like, hey, we're cutting ties with this dude who's named Jello Apocalypse. That's the YouTube handle.
Yeah. It's so interesting because like I've followed Jello's like YouTube channel for a while and like see it come up here and there every once in a while, but then like just seeing Justin tweet about it the other day, being like, "Yeah, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about," and then everyone else just further dunking on him. I was like, "What's happening?" I'm like so confused. It's so okay. Knowing the details now, that's very interesting that he would just kind of build himself a nice little paper house and then light it on fire.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like, I think his statement at one point, the guys said, like, we turned a 3 out of 10 into a 7 out of 10. That's kind of funny, but I wouldn't recommend anybody watch it for the sake of doing so. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Like, dude, usually, if you're brought in
you got the
as
check,
a headhunter, right? Yeah, it's like, when you're brought in as a headhunter to something that's usually pretty shitty, usually you, like, if you're not proud of your work, you just fucking write it under a pseudonym and go about your business and take the check.
Or you just take the check and hope nobody ever asks you about it.
Yeah, or like, if you're really that concerned about people finding out you worked on a damn thing, it's like, people just write, pseudonyms, a la porn dubbing, It's like, just, like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I did some work for that company. That's cool. Okay, moving on. It's why? I don't know. Oh, it's so weird. It's so weird.
Well, this will obviously dig up or light a new fire under anti-localization discourse and stuff about changing anime scripts for American/Western audiences, especially when it comes to LGBT things. So I'm sure that'll be a fun conversation that'll happen on the internet, and everybody will be completely civil about it.
See, here's the funny thing. I think, like, with all the brouhaha, I actually think that conversation never even got started, and it's completely blown over before that conversation could occur. Like, this is how much of a failure that this whole thing was, is that there wasn't. Everybody was just dunking on this guy for like tanking his career knowingly, or a door into another career that he could have had, and most people were on Discotech's side of it, like, yeah.
This is like the opposite of the Ghost Stories dub, where it's like they were given a pretty mid show to localize, and they're like, let's just make it really absurd and like not care that it's bad, and then we'll just make it fun. And then like, I don't know, now that's like an infamous dub that everybody like has some golden memories to, but like, yeah, I don't know. He pulled a sideshow. Oh yeah, I know that. he was pulling a sideshow Bob and just stepping on rakes over and over.
Yeah, exactly. God.
Jeez. All right. Fun.
All right. Well, I have to get going, but
oh no, we lost our DJ.
Do you have is there like an elevator pitch for one thing you want to say about one anime?
One thing I want to say about one anime.
Are you watching anything this season?
Yeah, I'm watching 7 different things this season. None of them are fantastic. I can just quickly.
Why didn't you give a C+ to Dungeon Meshi? What is wrong with you?
Why did I give us? Because it's entirely mid. Like everything about it. It's yeah. I'll give a quick sentence to everything so far. So fucking Tomozaki, bottom tier character, way better than season 1. It's like an actual romance now, and I like romance, so that can be number 1 this season. Then we've got the Hokkaido Gals are super adorable show. Very typical harem rom-com set in Hokkaido. So it's that, I guess. Sign of Affection, I feel like is the most well-made show that I'm watching this year, but it falls into the same problem that a lot of other shoujo series have, where it's just way too rapey sometimes, and I'm not a big fan of that.
No.
Yeah.
I thought that was supposed to be the wholesome show of the season.
Cooking show in a dungeon, and that's it. Metallic Rouge. It's a mech show. Okay. Fire Hunter Season 2. Snack Basue.
Wow.
Snack Basue is one of the fucking ugliest shows I've ever watched, but it's like weirdly absurd, and I kind of enjoy it. I think it's gonna climb up my list because Fire Hunter is. You heard what I had to say about it. But anyway,
the silence was deafening.
I've run out of things to say about that show. Yeah. I guess bye. I don't have any recommendations or anything. But thanks for asking as always, and Twitter DJ No Style. Bye.
Bye.
Okay.
See ya.
I'm waiting for him to blip out. He's still here. There he goes.
Not still here.
He is wrong about Dungeon Meshi. Now that he's walked out of the room.
If there's anywhere to start, I guess it's here.
He is wrong about Dungeon Meshi.
I think he is right up until the last 2 episodes, which I actually found to be pretty good. But the first 3 I felt were pretty generic.
I mean, it's a slow burn.
Here come the compromises.
Here come the cooking puns.
Yep.
Well, it's cooking, man. I mean, I like cooking shows, so I mean, cooking monsters in a dungeon. It is. Unless you're like, I could see it. If you're not really into like D&D. And you can't see how fucking D&D Dungeon Meshi is from the get-go. But in, like, a real... like I'm playing D&D with my friends and we're getting up to the dumbest shit possible. And yeah, so I could see where this wouldn't hit if you're not into that very specific vibe of fantasy. And how it all, plays out of absolutely ridiculous bullshit. Okay, plot's coming, guys. Next week there's plot. I promise.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I've been hearing, and I believe it, but I think for now it's safe to say that it's nothing special.
Boo. Boo this crowd. Well, yeah, Frieren's nothing special. There.
That's untrue.
Whoa! Oh, catching strays here. I like both of these shows. Whoa!
I like the Dungeon Meshi manga way better than I like the Frieren manga. There.
Whoa.
I mean, I do think that...
Luckily, we're talking about the anime.
Right, yeah. Like, I haven't read much of either manga, but I do think that in terms of adaptation as an anime, Frieren has a lot more going for it. So I could even believe that the Dungeon Meshi manga could be better than the Frieren manga. It's just the anime adaptation is so much better.
So my 2 cents about Dungeon Meshi is that, like, it's there's nothing like extremely stand out about it currently. Like, it looks good, it sounds good, the world building is good, but like none of them are on like a phenomenal level of intrigue. But I think that's where the breaking line is for a lot of people, where it's like some people are like, I need this story to go somewhere for me to like be more invested. But then there's another group of people that's like, this can just be this the whole time and it's all I need it to be. So like, I feel like the 2 camps kind of fall between like, this needs to do more for me and this is exactly what needs to be doing. It's like a weird line to toe, but so far I'm just enjoying it as it is, even without any kind of big plot advancements since the very beginning. But
it always manages every episode to do just enough things that are interesting for me to continue with it. So, like, I don't think it was the newest episode, but the one before that, the idea of going into the living paintings to try and eat the food inside of them, I thought was a really fun idea. And I like the way that they just tied a rope around Leos and then pulled him out every time shit got too real for him in there.
Yeah, that was a fun concept.
Yeah, it just needs to keep stringing those interesting concepts every episode together for me at this point, until the world building and story starts kicking in a little bit more. Because if you remove those little vignettes, essentially, since that's kind of how the show feels like it's split, we're going to do the living paintings and now we're going to do this for the second half of the episode or so, you need at least one of those to hit for me every episode in some way. Either it's funny or an interesting play on the concept that happens in RPGs or D&D. Because, yeah, you're not getting... We haven't even talked about this dude's sister for like 4 episodes now, and that was the whole idea of going back in here in the first place.
They've started talking about her a little bit. They're like, oh yeah, we missed her. She was like the level-headed one that like let us understand Leos because he's kind of a weirdo.
He's a turbo weirdo, and then they just keep letting it happen.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you stop that? I mean, the dude like ate a fucking parasite raw when no one was looking, and he's just like, and then like, oh god, that was so gnarly. I was like, dude, what are you doing, dude?
Yeah,
he deserved.
He got everything he deserved from that.
Yeah, exactly. I love how like Marcel's like, it's like, yeah, I'll just tap him with some healing every now and then until he like gets this worm dies. Essentially, this parasite eating his way through his stomach dies.
The thing that I'm kind of curious about is like the party composition, like what it's going to be like moving forward, because ever since we've met Senshi, there was a feeling that like he's kind of just like tagging along for now, and at some point they're going to part ways or something. And for me, I don't know how to feel about that so far, because he feels like he's very much carrying a lot of the show.
You want a minor spoiler?
No. I just because like I'm mainly just curious like whether he stays or not. Like I'm curious if this is the kind of show that's going to like keep adding people, or if people are going to come in and out of the party kind of thing. It's just I guess the show still hasn't very much revealed to me where it's like necessarily going in terms of the group dynamic. And like we said about the sister, like, is she gonna eventually become a mainstay once they save her, or is she just like the end goal for the entire show to work toward? And I don't know. I'm just very curious where we're kind of heading in terms of the characters.
Are they still gonna be dicking around while she becomes dragon shit in 100 episodes?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, he's definitely, Senshi is more essential to the party than that, I think, at this point, because he's the only reason they're still living in a lot. Because he's essentially their guide as much as a hanger-on.
Yeah.
Considering how useless kind of all of them are when it comes to surviving down here, Leos just wants to eat everything. And Marcel, up until recently, didn't want to eat anything at all, so she would have just starved. And then the little guy, whose name I can't remember, Chilchuk, is sort of in between neutral for them, but since they wouldn't know how to properly prepare the food, he'd probably die too from some type of parasite. So he's essential to the party right now, which I think is what lends that feeling of him carrying the whole thing for a while, because they are relying on him in almost every way imaginable. I mean, Marcella in particular has been almost useless up until the last episode. Most of the time she tries to use magic, then she yells at her, she doesn't, or she does and it blows up in her face, and then she complains about eating food.
That's what kind of pisses me off is, like, in this last episode they cut out the part where she's explaining how to make soap. Like, she straight up gives everybody a lesson on how to make soap, and I'm all like, they cut that out. Instead, she's just over there stirring a pot, and it's like, she's like, here, use this on your beard. I'm like, no, she gave a whole lesson on how to make soap, and you cut it out of the show.
At the very least, I like that they explored that dynamic more with her and Senshi, because there's very clearly a, old school versus new school thing going on here, and I like that for the first time we see that, like, Senshi's tried and true ways were not working this time, and it ended up being that, like, magic helped out in the end, and he's kind of like meeting her halfway a bit. So
it's the classic, like, dwarves and elves don't get along shit from, like, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, that's true.
And
I didn't even think about that. You're right, though.
Senshi doesn't trust magic, and Marcel is, like, all about the magic. Kind of that civil. They're like opposite people.
Mm-hmm.
But
the other thing about Senshi being very pertinent to the party is something that caught me off guard at the beginning. Was I thought, like, Leos would be the driving force in them cooking, but it's just interesting that Senshi is the driving force of them cooking, and Leos is just like, I want to eat everything, but, like, he's still very much learning how to cook and eat all these things. So that's why I think Senshi, like, really can't leave the party at this point. But I'm also curious to find out about Leos's little handbook that he has, how he like knows things are edible or not. I feel like we're gonna get some kind of background on, like, where he got that book, or, like, who he got it from, and that's, like, what's mainly got
his
my
book's
curiosity
not right
spinning.
half the time. He, like, they kind of proved that, like, way earlier. When he ripped out the book again, I'm like, dude, you just need to pitch that thing. That thing's not accurate.
That's funny. That makes me even more curious. Like, did he just, like, get that off, like, a random barter that, like, what did not go his way, or
probably got it up on, like, the first level in that random ass room where everybody hangs out up in the
like some kind of snake oil salesman bit. But yeah, I mean, for me anyways, like, it isn't doing anything phenomenal, but, like, I am very into the vibe of it. So, like, because I agree with DJ, this season overall is pretty mid aside from Frieren. So, like, it's the second most enjoyable show for me currently.
It is a good palate cleanser of fun.
Keep those puns coming.
I thought that was a good one.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, I said, B.
I'll take it.
Hey, that's above average.
Higher than most of you people's scores for the show, so I'll take it.
Oh, I think
Kestrel, do you have anything else to say about Dungeon Meshi?
Dungeon Meshi. Oh, Dungeon Meshi.
Yes, that. Yeah, it's fine. I don't have any plans to drop it. It's entertaining enough each week. I would like for it to become more, and I keep hearing that it will be. So I am looking forward to that and hope that it's executed well. I definitely see it as being kind of repetitive and inconsequential, episodic at this point. Senshi is definitely carrying it, and I'd be curious to see what happened if he left, because it is pretty much just kind of like, that like masterclass kind of formula where you have someone who already knows everything showing you how you can, create incredible food, and then everyone else orgasms over it. So without him in the picture and them having to like fend for themselves and figure that out, it'd be a very different dynamic at any rate. But yeah, I would like to see the other characters matter more.
The food isn't always good. They said that they were going to eat the Kraken, and the Kraken ended up tasting bad, so they didn't.
True, yeah.
Yeah.
But in general, like, yeah, everyone else knows jack shit, and he's kind of there for all the expertise. So it would be a very different show without him. So yeah, like I said, everyone keeps saying it's going to be something much more, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat too. Like, I'm not dropping it anytime soon, and Emily enjoys it as well, so we'll watch it together because she likes how it generally has a lighthearted tone, which helps since a lot of the anime that gets the most popular doesn't have that all the time. So at least at this point, it's something that we can watch together. I don't have to worry too much about it being a particularly stressful experience. So that is also a point in its category, at least for me personally. So I do look forward to it getting better, though, hopefully.
I'd like a little more meat on the bone. There we go.
Oh, there we go.
All right, well.
Shall we move on to the next course? Or,
this is like puns, man.
I actually wanted to move on to something because I was looking at your list, Brandon. I was very glad to see one particular show on there. And I'm also glad that you still think solo leveling ain't hot shit, because neither do I.
If that show wasn't like well animated, and if the main character, if Sunwoo wasn't like so well voice acted, the show's easily like D tier slop. Just like your run of the mill power fantasy jerk off session. Like, I can't. Like, I don't know, man. Like,
Are you still going?
I'm still watching it because like you're not done.
No, I dropped it. I was like, nah. I think there yeah, it was essentially what you said, but I just don't have the time of day to give it when I'm doing other things, and also comparing it unfairly or otherwise to be like, I'm watching Frieren and Mashal and Dungeon Meshi and Maomao, and these are all really good. And solo leveling feels like I'm just watching it out of some sense of obligation.
Yeah, and I feel like I sort of am, because I'm similarly to you guys watching it, at least for this one, watching it to like get to the part everyone like get to the point where everyone's like, no, this is good, trust me. But
does it have one of those? Because everything I read says the opposite.
I don't know, man.
What you see is what you get with this thing.
Yeah, and it probably is. Like, I don't think it's going to change much, just in terms of like the story. Very clearly, there isn't like anything besides like he's gonna keep getting stronger, and people are gonna keep not believing he's that strong, and he's gonna do it.
Somehow, in a world filled with the internet and smartphones and the wealth of information, people are just going to keep forgetting that this guy is strong, despite how many times they've been proven otherwise.
I feel like part of it,
how many times they see his 8-pack.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Is part of it too, I feel like, is just, it's been such a rapid escalation that, like, I know it's already an unbelievable, like, thing in his world because no one else levels up, but it's like, the second he gets a level up ability, he's like in the hospital, like working out and stuff. All the nurses are like, damn, you see like that hot guy in like Ward B? Like, yeah, dude, he's like so hot, but I heard he's like low ranked. They're like, oh, okay, whatever. And just like that from the get go is like, we're already getting to like to levels of like, I don't like want to hear this. And then just the most recent episode, he does some like, he's doing his like basic workouts, and that like he gets his level ups from that, but he's like, wait, if I do double my basic workouts, I get like a secret reward item. and just doing like running 20 kilometers instead of 10 or doing 200 push-ups instead of 100 grants him like an S tier key to like an S tier dungeon where he faces off against like a giant Cerberus beast, and like he only just became able to beat like a level C monster like an episode prior. And then he beats this new like S tier mob. I assume it's a mob in front of this S tier dungeon. The same way he did the last way, where he just keeps stabbing it over and over again with his OP status build weapon in the eyeball, and he kills it. And I just was like, so is he gonna just keep growing? Because he's already in an S tier dungeon. And it's like episode 5. It's just like, I don't know. It's just not doing it for me. Like the pacing, it doesn't feel like we're being rewarded as we watch him. He's just like getting all his gains, and I'm just here to just watch him get all his gains. I don't know.
Yeah,
sorry. I'm ranting.
No, I don't have. You put it pretty much perfectly there for the most part. This show doesn't feel like it's going to be having like a Shibuya or Chimera arc, ant arc up its sleeve anytime soon, especially with the whole conceit of the show being, look how powerful this dude is getting. You just have to kind of revel in the beauty of the animation and the action scenes if that's your thing, and let everything else slide.
Yeah.
And some people are cool with it and some aren't. And I guess that's also how the manhwa is at the same time. They're like, there ain't much else other than it's beautifully drawn and the action scenes are dope.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, it's, I can give the conceit that like the same reason I'm enjoying Dungeon Meshi is the same reason some people can enjoy Solo Leveling, because they're like, I'm just here to watch a dude like kick ass. And it's like, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But I don't know. It just feels so. I don't know. It just feels so generic in that regard. But that's not to say I'm not. It's like I'm not bored. It does look great and sound great. And like I said, the voice acting from the main character has been like really stellar. That man is screaming his ass off. But like, I don't know. It feels a little masturbatory.
Kestrel, you gave it an A-. You troglodyte.
Yeah, I don't know. I was surprised actually, because I've been hearing some other people who were not sold on it initially, kind of surprised that they were starting to get into it recently, especially with like the episode where, spoiler, he has to kill people, and how that gets kind of dark. So yeah, I think when he is just doing like the literal solo leveling, it's pretty much just about the spectacle and just kind of being there to root for him and the stakes that do exist, because even though it has this video game structure, it is like real life. But yeah, I think the other twist that happened, where he kind of had these moral, ethical questions forced upon him by the system that he's adhering to, introduced some interesting concepts to the storyline. And when he is in an environment with other actual humans, the story is a lot more interesting, both for the actual supporting cast being characters and just other people who are built up as antagonists, but he has to kind of treat them like video game enemies, even though they are real human beings, and the moral and ethical questions that arise in him from that, or don't, which is also an interesting turn. So yeah, I think all of those aspects, and I have read more of the manhwa, and I think kind of the trajectory that it goes on with those little pieces that it's sprinkling in, I think is interesting. if you are both this down on it at this point, then I don't know that you're gonna like drastically change your mind, because I think it's already done a few things to prove itself. So if you disagree, then it's probably not for you. But yeah, I think that it's just kind of doing everything that it's doing really well. Also, I know you guys both mentioned the visuals, but also the soundtrack is also top notch. So, production-wise, I think everyone agrees that it's very, very strong storyline. Yeah, I can get if it's not working for some people, and that's fine.
I will say one of the things about it that I am like interested in seeing more of is like the actual mechanics behind the level up system that he has, because I think some of the most interesting parts of his interactions with it is thinking how he was like the system chose him to be the solo leveler, and how he's like he kind of makes it like this own like he's a predestined like warrior for this system that has given him power. And I feel like that part is interesting, and like I'm interested to see if he ever maybe at some point meets his maker in a way, like finds out like who's behind his leveling or something. And I do like some of the tidbits, like you said, the game prompting him with like, uh-oh, these guys are bad, kill them. And also like him drinking alcohol, and it's like, oh, toxins have entered your body, we will now give you a debuff and a new status like upgrade. And it's like, okay. I think that stuff's pretty interesting. So like, that's probably just because like I like like video game type stuff that isn't just like straight up like SAO type shit. Like this feels like it's a little bit more intricate, almost like Log Horizon in its like very strictly RPG like numbers based stuff. So I'm a little bit interested in finding some of that stuff out.
And like, unlike Shangri-La Frontier, which I'm also watching, it is, again, it's not quite a video game, it's not quite real life, it's this weird in-between that you're not quite sure where it came from, what the purpose of it is, and, surely we have to get to some answer regarding that. And yeah, the manhwa is over, so it has an ending, it has some answer. I don't know how it ends. But yeah, I think it's intriguing to, think about who created this, why they chose him, what their end goal is, and, what happens when they cross paths or whatever.
Yeah, I think for as much as I'm ragging on it, like I said, it's like the production is good and I'm not bored. So I assume this is going to get multiple seasons, so I'll stick out this season unless it like horribly spits in my face. But like for now, it's not doing it as much for me. So
That's okay. I'll keep shitting on it, so you don't gotta worry about it. I watched my 5 episodes. I gave it enough time, and I'm like, nah, this is tripe. So
that's fair.
Let's move on then. So I know everyone likes Frieren except for Kate.
I've been watching the anime, so whatever.
Everyone likes Frieren except people who don't watch it. This is a fact.
It wasn't good. I just said I like the Dungeon Meshi manga better than the Fern manga. That's it. That's all I said. I haven't seen the anime. The anime is probably stellar. I just haven't had time to watch it.
I'll say that the first class mage exam arc has been fun. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
It's cool seeing like new powers, new people crossing paths.
It gives them an opportunity to flesh out the world a little bit with like how different magic can be, and it seems like outside of a magic missile type attack and the hex shield, everybody has something different that they bring to the table, which is interesting.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts is that Fern is like this, up and coming prodigy, but everyone's so confused. They're like, she literally just knows like the basic attack and defense spells, but because she's being trained by literally like the strongest mage of all time, she's just like, she's like, yeah, I only know the basic spell, but I'm also just like have an endless pool of mana that I'm just gonna spam you until you can't block it. They're just such an interesting standout compared to everybody else.
And also having... Yeah, go ahead.
You can go, Kestrel, because I was just going to make a sports reference. I was probably going to go over everyone's heads. So.
I see. I was just going to say, and then having that greatest mage of all time just taking the exam with everyone else and just kind of hiding her identity and, not making a big deal about anything, just kind of chilling and seeing everyone's reaction when, she actually pulls out all the stops and just blows them all away. So that's been a lot of fun.
I do think it's funny how
she's been able to yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think it's funny how people like casually address her whether they know her or not, because like most of the young mages are like, who? And then like a lot of the older mages are like, ah yes, the one from the heroes party who slayed the demon king. All right. It's like, is that it? That's all you're gonna say?
Yeah, and she gets to be that kind of adult mentor figure that she already is for Fern, but for the other people that don't know anything about her, and just seeing that dynamic of them not expecting anything from her and having these preconceived notions and thinking that they know the best way to solve problems, and then seeing how even without superb power, just the intuition and the experience that she has from 1,000 years, how much more successful she is and what they can learn from that. Nice to see.
I like this sort of... it's not even a relationship, I guess you can say, because they don't interact too often, but anytime that Frieren during the exam was talking to the bearded guy, because he's so incredibly pragmatic in his approach to magic and everything, it kind of mirrors her but also reflects it at the same time, because she just gathers spells in a lot of ways because she feels like it, and the joy is in the hunt and not in the product, and that's what he's like. But he is also way more like politically inclined in some ways, and that sort of silent ruthless type where he won't kill you in the street, but he'll hire several different organizations with back alley connections to just push you off a bridge so that he's not associated in any way, because I believe he's some type of really high ranking mage already in the kingdom, and they've made some hints that you don't get that way just by being good at magic. Like there's definitely some cloak and daggery shit that he's had to do to get where he is, but it provides an interesting foil to Frieren whenever they interact, because it feels like on some level they vibe with each other in that way. Like during their duel, she liked his answer that the pursuit of magic was just for the sake of it and not for some grand end. So I've liked watching him interact, especially since he's, at least on the human end, he's older and wiser, and some of the other mages in this exam are much younger and temperamental or quick to act rather than plan out everything. And Frieren may not be sitting around and planning things, but just as Kestrel was saying, like her wealth of this 1,000 years of life allows her to kind of do that on the fly. So I've liked him as a character so far. Like I kind of hope he sticks around for a little bit, at least through the rest of this exam, because I think he's more interesting than a lot of the other side characters in a way, because you still don't entirely know what his motivations are because they're not on his sleeve like in some others. He's just like, I'm doing this because.
I think at the very least, none of the other... I do agree that I really like the old man, but I don't think any of the other examinees are one-dimensional. I feel like that's one of the big strengths of this arc, is that there's no one that's taking a test that's just like very clearly a bad person that's just like, I'm gonna kill all the other examinees. La, 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 la. Like
Right.
even ones that I was expecting to maybe be that, like the green-haired girl or the silver-haired dude.
Yeah, the guy who was in the army or whatever.
Yeah, like they very quickly made it apparent that these people are willing to kill if it comes to it, but like they all have their own motives and morals that they will stand by before just like, thoughtlessly, mercilessly like killing each other. And I think that's one of the biggest strengths about this show in general, but like this arc in particular too has just been really good in making that apparent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the show's always been great about every character feeling really well realized and fleshed out, and just having an arc where you have to introduce so many new characters really puts that to the challenge, and it really pulls it off because, yeah, every character that we meet has so much going on in their personality, and just mixing up all the different dynamics within that and seeing how different philosophies clash and the mutual respect that they have for each other within the same kind of field of magic. It's very interesting, very well rendered.
Mm-hmm.
I like how the old guy says that no idiot would fall for a mimic, and then not only does Frieren constantly do so, but she does them on purpose.
Yeah.
Like
The mimic gag in this last episode was so funny.
Yeah.
And I love that it's like a
Especially
Chinese finger trap. It, like, don't pull, push me in and make him gag. So funny.
If you keep pulling me, you're gonna tear me in half.
That was probably like the only time this season I've laughed out loud at an anime, and I'm watching several anime that are chiefly comedies.
Yeah.
And it was even a gag that's been done before, and I knew it was coming, and it was still just timed so perfectly, executed so perfectly.
It sets the ending of that episode up really well too. I thought I thought the ending of the newest episode was legitimately frightening.
That
everybody
was
involved.
Sick. It was chilling.
Yeah, because he sets it up earlier with that guy saying like no fool would fall for a mimic, and then you see Frieren falling for the mimic multiple times, and then also just kind of having fun, and then the ending sets it up in a way where she's now incredibly terrifying.
Yeah, literally like they walked into a Dark Souls boss room.
Yeah, it makes me interested also in how the dungeon is set up, because you think in the beginning that they're going to have to fight copies of themselves exclusively.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So then are these copies just splayed out amongst the dungeon and they just got super duper unlucky?
Yeah, I was thinking it's either that or because they're like going in head first together, they're just the first ones to hit everything. Whereas like Frieren's like, no, let's hit all the detours because Himmel told me that you gotta see everything first. Which I love that part too, because that is very much like ingrained in my mind as a gamer. It's like, I will not go to the next part of this level until I see every fucking nook and cranny, bro.
You gotta make sure you're not giving up any treasure.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to get through a game and just having to do all the side quests and feel like I'm doing everything 100% is just making it take way too long.
Yeah, that's usually how I burn out of games, is like I can't complete them because the side stuff just overwhelmed me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very excited for the new episode. That cliffhanger was something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still top notch. I feel bad. I half feel bad once again for Stark because he's not in the show, but I also know that he's spending his time just laying around, which makes him happy. So
the judgmental eyes of Fern not on him right now.
Like, not constantly burning a hole into him.
Yeah, until she comes back and he has to answer for what he's been doing in her absence.
Yeah.
Even Frieren's like, uh-oh, we made her mad. Like, there's no stopping Fern once she gets even a little bit upset.
Oh, that pout game too strong.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm always very excited to watch him. Glad it's maintained the quality and the, as you both had mentioned earlier, the attention to detail as much as you could give what is a much larger cast of characters so that they don't feel entirely one-dimensional. It really, all the plates are still spinning, which is nice, because you could easily see most shows, once they get into a tournament arc, so to speak, like this, you start running into just, caricatures of people.
Exactly, yeah. Archetypes.
Yeah, archetypes, and luckily it's avoided them, or in some ways, like the army guy, it kind of embraced it and then just spun it enough to make him interesting. Because he is very much like, I'm a kill, but then he struggles with doing it. Unless he has a few moments to sort of gather his nerves, and then when he's not in job mode, he can switch that off and just kind of be a dude. So you get to see a couple different sides. I'm still a little skeptical about Glasses Coon, though. I think he's a psycho.
I was just gonna say, he's the one we should actually be worrying about right now, for sure.
Yeah, Glasses Coon's looks like he got something going on up in there. So we'll see how that kind of works out, especially because he hasn't really been featured once this has started.
Yeah,
in a way yet.
Entered the dungeon, they haven't really shown him much.
So excited to see how, especially the next episode. I also really like the little vials with the golems, and then they just turn into big buff dudes that just kind of carry you out piggyback style.
Yeah, the golem sprinting off with that girl on his shoulder was such a funny visual.
Felt bad for her though.
Yeah, I think it's good though that it stands as a testament to make sure that the dungeon doesn't appear to be too easy, because they set it up as this is the part of the test that no one passes, but so far we haven't seen too much adversity for most of the group, mainly because they're generally pretty strong mages. But I think we needed something like her getting caught in that room and instantly needing to eggs out or get killed. It's the stakes needed to be set, and I feel like that was a good tone setter.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, I do agree once again with Old Guy, though, where they should have just all worked together, and this would have been way easier.
Oh, yeah.
I definitely would have been on his side of it. Yeah, this is stupid. Why are we doing this separately?
Yeah. The one-dimensional character that is not a good character so far is the one guy that was we're not on a team anymore, bro. I got this whole thing by myself. That guy's clearly already dead, probably.
Yeah, I'm hoping he pays the price. Alright, well, I suppose we can now shift, if we're done singing Frieren's praises for another week.
Yeah.
I suppose.
I just want to know, what was your in the moment reaction, Cain, when Mesh turned his wand into a tennis racket and
immediately thought of Cain as well.
Destroy Carpaccio.
I imagine you want the actual truth.
I want all the
I had to pause the episode. I had to pause the episode and text my brother, who was watching at the same time, but before I could text him, he just went, "It's a fucking tennis racket." Yep. And then this show never gets old. This gag hasn't gotten old. No, I love that. Even though Mash killed that guy.
Yeah.
I know he didn't, but he hit him with an iron tennis racket over the head so hard it split his skull open. That dude should be fucking dead.
Yeah.
No, I fucking love that whole bit with the tennis racket, and I hope that is just how he utilizes his wand, period, from now on. He just morphs it into different things.
Yeah. I love how there's just a constant need. I just watched the newest episode today, and even Dot started realizing, and he's like, we're talking about things like they're sports. This doesn't really feel like we're in magic school. And he's like, whatever.
Yeah, okay, whatever, because we're talking tennis rackets, and now we're calling things spine magic and just suplexing
people. He's returning a serve
and
magic ball.
I think I know we had talked about this when the show, especially in the first season, that just like a Sleepy Princess and Demon Castle, that this could easily get bogged down under its own weight of trying to make this singular thing funny. But man, it hasn't yet. And I love it because I guess I applaud how creative in the absurdity that they get, in that I don't think there's been a repeated solution to any of MASH's problems. So we haven't gotten into a situation where he just like, he'll punch and he'll be really fast, but like the volleyball thing is, oh, I'm just going to run backwards faster than the magic, or I'm going to turn my wand into a tennis racket, or I'm going to breakdance so hard it creates a tornado. Like,
yeah,
I'm really into how creative they allow him to break this world, to solve the problems within, and everybody, it feels like even the student body is getting around to the point where they feel like they can't hate him as hard because he's a demigod.
Yeah, I love that they go from being like, man, he's a no magic, he's worthless, to just like seeing him do one thing and they're like, oh my god, how did he do that?
How is this possible under any human circumstances?
Yeah, I am pleasantly surprised that, like you said, like they keep like very original, crazy MASH takes go on, and I feel like part of that is also he'll try something again, but usually it won't work on this stronger enemy. So he's like, okay, I got to come up with something even more ludicrous, I guess.
Yeah, you're right.
But I think the other aspect that I'm pleasantly surprised about is I'm glad that they're giving some good enough like animation and design details to the like seconds level stuff with the gods being released from the wands. Especially when they first did Reigns, and it was a very short animation cut, but I feel like those are like the moments where the manga would get very detailed and create really unique and cool designs. And I feel like that's where a lot of the animation should get its big focus. And I feel like so far they've done those parts justice so far. So I'm excited to see once they whip out some of the other big magic moves, how well they look. Hopefully get some of that solo leveling budget over here, maybe.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
They could put a little more money into some of it sometimes, but I think what is an advantage to MASH in that respect is so much of his stuff is just like one or two moves that we don't need to get like a whole episode full of incredible animation, because most of the time his killing move is just like a fucking backwards suplex or some horse shit, or what he did in that dodge thing where he won just by I can't remember what he did. He like
he stuck
jammed
his feet in the floor, yeah, and like
and then just jumped hard enough to stay attached to that particular piece of floor.
Yeah,
like they're relatively simple in their execution for the most part. So yeah, but maybe as this battle kind of intensifies, we'll see a little bit more of the budget put in between him and the Music Man.
Music Dio,
yeah, Marguerite, whatever,
yeah,
Macaron. Yeah, what a name.
I think another thing that I'm enjoying about this season of MASH is I've mentioned in previous episodes that I was weary how people would receive it once it started focusing a little bit more on like the very shonen battle action-y aspects, but I don't know if it's because rather than getting like a chapter a week, like an episode can cover a little bit more. I feel like it feels a little more well-rounded, being able to include like some dramatic action-y bits and then like alleviate with some comedy scenes in between. I just feel like maybe the pacing feels a little bit more digestible than the weekly chapter formula was doing, because there was definitely some parts in the manga where I was just like, man, they didn't even have a joke this week. Like, what am I reading anymore if MASH isn't making me laugh? But no, I've been pleasantly surprised with this season of Mashal.
Yeah, that definitely helps, I think, if that's how the manga goes. Because, each episode has some drama, and there's always at least a joke or two to keep it light, even if it's just a one-off phrase about sports terms or whatever. But I do think there's always going to be some built-in humor just because of the just absolutely downright craziness that is how MASH solves anything.
Yeah.
Even if it is presented in a sort of more serious light, so to speak, it's still probably going to be humorous just by how ridiculous the whole idea is.
Yeah, and I will guarantee that MASH's problem-solving skills will continue to get stupider and wilder. like they continue to be unique throughout the whole series, which I really appreciate.
He also has, I think, one of my favorite pieces about his personality, and he had this in the first season as well a little bit, but there is a sort of, in the simplicity of his personality, there's like a weird arrogance with how strong he is.
Mm-hmm.
And how he chooses to just solve things in the way that he does because he knows he's strong enough to do it, and then he's not afraid to just, talk shit to whoever's trying to get in his way. Which I think is also adds to the humor because he doesn't take himself really seriously or much of anything seriously, but he will talk hella smack on you.
Yeah, he has faith in his muscles. So if you're like testing him, he's like, all right,
cool. And then you have to have faith in your muscles if you've named each one of them individually.
Exactly. That's true. I love that stuff like that aren't always one-off gags, because at one point he's like talking to something and Finn is like, who is he talking to? He's like, oh, he's talking to his pecs. I forgot.
Yeah, Mike warned him.
Good stuff.
So you're caught up with the manga and stuff, Brain, or is it over? I'm not sure what
Yeah, the manga ended last year. They did release just like a one shot, just like epilogue chapter, maybe about a month or so ago. But yeah, it's all done.
So where are we at in it right now? Like, how much has been?
Probably like a third of the way ish. Maybe a little less. We're they've only just scratched the surface of talking about the main villain, Innocent Zero, and the second half will mainly concern him. So once he gets more thoroughly introduced, we'll be closer to probably about a third of the way, I'd say.
Cool. So there's still plenty of MASH to go.
Oh yeah, plenty of MASH content to be had. And hopefully not in any kind of movie television form. No. Oh, we didn't talk about that yet, but I guess that wasn't really a news segment, huh?
What? To the divine visionary?
Yeah. It makes me angry, so I won't talk about it, but you guys certainly can.
That's fair. I don't need to.
Excellent. Let's see. So, are you guys both watching Undead Unlock still?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen so many. I haven't watched the show. I've seen so many clips of it on my Reddit or newsfeed. I still have no idea what the fuck this shit's about.
It's so weird.
Because people are like, "You're gonna unlock my undead" or whatever it is, and I'm just like, "What the fuck does any of this mean?"
The last episode it just became a show about making manga, just for that episode.
Yeah, the second half is definitely, personally, I felt it's been a lot weaker. I thought the first half was really good because it set up a really interesting, the world building of. So Cain, basically, there's an organization and there's 12 members, and they have to do this quest that this like demonic apocalypse book, like it'll like give them quests, and if they don't complete it, a trait is released into the world. But like these are all things that in our world already exist, but like they don't exist, or they were taken away, I guess, at some point or something. So like they failed a mission, and then they like the galaxy was unlocked. So before, in their world, there were no stars in the sky. They had no concept of like anything outside of Earth. And then like they failed their mission, and then all of a sudden like space became a thing, and like that just introduces new challenges for them to overcome and stuff. So like the concept behind it was really cool, but I feel like they got into like an arc that kind of spanned over a few episodes that slowed it down a bit. And I don't know, it was just a little less fun for me. So the last couple episodes, I'm not fully caught up, but yeah.
You haven't seen the manga one?
No, I haven't. I think the last one was like at the end of the boat stuff, and then they saw that dude that is now a kid. Yeah, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Or no way, yeah. And then the last one I saw is when the Billy betrayed them.
Spoiler.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. It is a weird show because like it starts with these pretty basic concepts, and then just like every episode, it just introduces some wild ass twist that you would like never think of, and that's just reality now. Yeah. I don't know what to think about it entirely, but I agree that I think I'm enjoying it less as time goes on. It might just be getting too convoluted and too absurd. But I think I don't know, maybe it just kind of overstayed its welcome a little bit. Because it's not doing anything all that remarkable with how like big the stakes are and how self-important it kind of feels.
Yeah. I feel like it kind of slowed down and focused in on characters, and that kind of like made it lose some steam. I think once they maybe get back on track to like the bigger picture and like the approaching doomsday stuff, I think I'll get back into it. But yeah, it looks really good though. I will say like David Productions is like killing it, and for a show that like, especially like one of the main characters, he's like cutting off his limbs and flying around spurting blood and regrowing limbs. Like on paper, this should be like a very hard show to make, but they have been very consistent throughout.
Yeah, the production is definitely elevating it way beyond what the material really should offer. I didn't like what I read of the manga, and I think right from the beginning, everyone involved in the anime adaptation has just been knocking it out of the park as much as they can with the material. It's similar to like, you know, what David did with Fire Force. Like, I think that had a lot of really weak elements, but just the production that they put behind it just made it so much better than it should have been. And yeah, I think the characters, I don't know, I guess I don't find myself caring as much about the characters as I'd like to, and it's probably just because of how crazy, absurd, huge everything about the plot and its twists are all the time, that I feel like when it tries to be grounded with character moments, it's just like, well, I don't know, does this even mean anything? Like, everything is just so big and ever-changing and wild and impossible to predict that, I don't know, it's hard to get invested in those little moments that they try to, like, sell as, you know, empathetic.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I understand why they needed to, like, give some characterization to, like, Tatiana, but like you said, like, in the grand scheme of things, like, it amounted to, like, her doing a big attack for an episode that, like, it didn't really amount to much. And then that arc also focused a lot on this other new kid whose power is very underwhelming, and he seems like more useless than anyone in the show so far. And it's like, how important was this guy for us to need to focus on him? But I don't know. Like, maybe he'll become very plot relevant later, but Yeah, like you said, it feels like some of these character moments are kind of downplaying the fact that like there are bigger things at stake right now. Can we focus on those, please?
And it does feel like this is like a trap that a lot of jump manga kind of fall into, where it has this initial concept and it's, fun and interesting for like a few chapters, and then it gets popular enough that they're like, okay, well, this needs to last like forever, so make it last forever, and then it turns into something that surely was never in the plans from the beginning. And that's definitely how this feels. Like, it just turned into something completely different because they needed to make it self-sustaining and more of like the shonen model.
Yeah. We'll see if it can rebound, I guess. But yeah, not the worst show of the season.
No, definitely not. But at least I know a little bit more about it now. So if I see it pop up in my feeds, I can try and make some sense out of what's going on.
I'm just as confused every week.
Yeah. Basically, also their powers are just like everything just has in front of it. Like there's undead, unluck, unrepair, unmovable, unkill, unburn. It just
yeah, and the concept is that they all like negate something. So that's kind of how their powers work.
And I still don't understand.
Hey, there it is.
Hey, nice.
Yeah.
Very good. Fantastic.
Ugh.
All right. Well, then we can certainly move on. I'm not sure how much else, because that covers basically almost, well, except for Maomao, which I think Kestrel, you and I are watching.
I'm watching Maomao.
Oh, you're watching Maomao as well?
I am reviewing Maomao.
Oh, cool.
I am obligated to have to watch it.
I like the idea that you're just reviewing the character every week.
I just call it that. That's
just Maomao's diaries.
Yep, just Maomao. I'm like, hey, we watching Maomao?
How often does she actually do apothecary shit? Yeah, so it's the Maomao show.
It definitely is. Yeah, how do you think of this latest episode? It was pretty eventful.
Yeah, that was everything coming to a head for the whole thing. I'm kicking myself not realizing that, of course, all these fucking cases were linked up to one thing.
Yeah.
Chekhov's gun all over the place. I'm like, why? I'm dumb. Of course.
I was shocked to see her get fucking annihilated.
Oh yeah, that was crazy. That was just straight up like, holy shit.
I know it's a story, but she probably would have been knocked unconscious instantly. I mean, she took a club directly to the side of her head.
I know, she should have brain bleeding.
Yeah, there should be a lot of...
Your jaws should be shattered.
But,
now, what does more damage, that or the tennis racket?
Definitely the tennis racket. That tennis racket is a weapon of mass destruction. The club would... The club is just a twig in comparison. Yeah, the newest episode I really enjoyed. It really brought a lot of stuff to the head, and I've really been...
Literally.
Yeah, I've really been coming around on like Jinshi as a character because he's such a creep in the beginning, but now I'm just so enamored by his entire ordeal and what is up with him, and I like the twist on their relationship that he's the clingy one and she's the aloof one, which I know most of the time it's kind of flipped around where like the male love interest in anime and stuff is like aloof and cool, and it's the women that are fawning over them, and now it's kind of the opposite to the point that he's like immature and jealous of it. Just when like that other guy touched Maomao, they were discussing a plan,
like crouched behind that gazebo or whatever, and he's
like stalking them.
Yeah, he was like,
he's like, oh, that looks like fun. Like he's so upset with not being involved in things. So he's turned into a really fun character that I enjoy, just because he can still have those like creepy moments and stuff, but for the most part, he feels like he's a young guy who has power and stuff, but also kind of doesn't like the idea of having it because it gives his life a lot more responsibility than he necessarily would like, because he seems more put upon by his job almost all of the time than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, I know that the show had briefly mentioned it once or twice, but obviously Jinshi has a lot more power than even this administrative position that he holds allows him to wield. I think it was the creepy military guy that said it, if not Jinshi's assistant, that he's hiding something about like his more royal blood or a higher position within the kingdom, and obviously you got to see that in some extent here in this episode. So, yeah, it really kind of...
I mean, in the earlier story arc, they straight up, spelled out who he is in the royal family, and how
I must have missed it then, unless it was something that was at least a little more like sort of throwaway. I know there was that whole thing one time where it was like, is he the actual like brother or son of this concubine that got switched at birth? Mm-hmm. And things, but I couldn't tell if that was actually what happened or if that was just conjecture, and maybe not. Obviously the pieces kind of line up in that way, but it wasn't like someone just came out and said it, as much as the creepy military guy just straight up said, I think he was like, you have more power than even you let on in like this little toy job that you have. So
yeah, be a really poor secret. Well, I mean, like, I wasn't paying close enough attention to the retainers outside of the ceremony and the guys inside to see if they were actually looking at him or not. But somebody's got to realize, like, he wouldn't, like, he was doing a ceremony that only somebody of the royal family should have been performing, and I'm like, are they just not looking at him, or are they did nobody realize that that's the guy, or outside of the outer court, or I don't know. It's weird. The dude is all over the place, and you think that somebody would put like 2 and 2 together.
Yeah, I agree with that a little bit in a way, that he's so kind of heavily involved with everything, but maybe it's one of those like, oh, is the answer is right under your nose, but you miss it because it is so flagrantly sort of obvious, at least to the other people who were there, perhaps. Like, that's kind of, maybe that's what they're going with. But my main, I think, comment that I told Emily at the end of the episode was, I know that there was dramatic effect, but I was wondering, is he gonna hurry up and like get her to a doctor or something, or like she's in real rough shape? Yeah, she's in real rough shape, and he's just taking his sweet old time, like walking her wherever he's gonna go. He's just gonna let her bleed out, like.
Yeah, she straight up was all like, "Oh, I've got to stitch up my leg." Blacks out, and he's all like, and he just in shock walks out of there. And then Lacan's just is standing there in shock. It's like, dude, execute the fool that hit her or something, because I know you will. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah, that dude's definitely out of a job.
That guy might be out of life. He might not have life anymore after that.
In this case, I guess they're both one and the same.
Yeah, like, it's like you will be fired out of a cannon into the sun territory for that guy. Lacan standing there the entire time and just watched that all go down and then, like, stepped up.
I mean, that's what it felt like.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, way to go.
I really want to learn more about him, since, Maomao has such a disgusted physical reaction anytime that he's mentioned or even around.
Yeah.
Because Jinshi, she did the same, but it was more in that whole, this guy's kind of just creepy and maybe I can handle him, or he's harmless in a lot of ways because he's just sort of a generalized creep. But her reaction to him feels like real danger and anger. Like he represents a way higher stakes to her life than Jinshi ever did.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously they already revealed like the big twist in his character, his role in the story.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you'll get into, a lot more detail around him very soon.
I mean, from her perspective, it's like, it's like, oh, the deadbeat father figure who left the mother to rot, Yeah, Jinshi could have got a little bit more hustle there.
A tad,
but he looked so pretty.
He did. He looked very good doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You needed the dramatic effect of the slow walk and everything for the end of the episode for it to really kind of stick.
The swelling music and the...
Exactly. You needed to last the whole song.
Yep. You need to get a good look at his intense stare into the distance. It's just funny thinking about it from the standpoint of they even show her bleeding on the sidewalk, and I was like, man, you better hurry.
Yeah, she's leaving like a trail of like blood droplets all the way out of the place. It's like, well, somebody's gonna have to scrub down all those paving stones, but
and some pretty thick ones too. This isn't like a little bit. This is a lot. Like there's a serious amount of blood loss. So
and it's like, do you think she's finally gonna put 2 and 2 together and realize the thing that she already figured out is true?
Right, yeah. I mean, I think the fact that you already got that initial revelation from her own conjecture, shouldn't take her too much longer to be like,
her day's concussive now leg / reaction of like, oh, Jinshi, what are you doing here? It's like, yeah, okay. Well, wait until you're better before you think of that over again.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll cut you some slack this time because you were all fucked up, but...
She better get that gallstone. So, that's what this whole thing was for.
Yep.
Yep, she wanted that gallstone. She wanted the magic gallstone. It doesn't actually do jack shit, but, Chinese medicine.
Not Chinese, not China, excuse me.
Yeah, definitely not China. I don't know where you're getting that from.
Actually, apparently that was like a thing. That was like all over just, the old world was like, hey, these things are magic. They prevent poison. And then some like European guy like disproved it because there was a cook, I believe, that was being executed for treason or something. And he's like, okay, I'll take the poison, but I want to see but give me one of those Bezor things so I could see if it worked, and the guys are like, the physician's like, okay, here. The dude, didn't do shit. He's like, well, that disproves that as this guy's over here dying. That's my history moment for the week.
But yeah, this is probably it's so hard to rank everything past Frieren because things like Mashal and Maomao are 2 entirely different shows. So I can't be like, I love Mashal more because I'd watch them for entirely different reasons. But at any point in time when I'm watching them, like, this show is amazing for various reasons. And I'm always surprised at how well this show kind of handles its plot and its characters and things, where we see the intricacies of all of these palaces, kind of sort of working together, but then people will be like, oh, they're from this, the South Palace and the North Palace, and I haven't seen them in 60 years and things like that. So it kind of shows the scale of how big this outfit really is, which I suppose gives more credence to what Jinshi's role also is, at least from an administrative standpoint, because he has to do all that goddamn paperwork all the time, which just sucks. And also, I guess I'm surprised, and maybe maybe I shouldn't be, but how people don't know who she is yet because she is kind of, Jinshi's sort of number one servant, right hand, person or whatever for all this stuff. So just her buzzing around all the time, but that's perhaps just more credence to the size of this staff and this palace and everything.
And just how undervalued servants are.
Yeah, in that way, even though she's, clearly a favorite and above and beyond your standard for various reasons. But yeah. Okie doke. So let's see. I think that definitely covers all of my shows now. So if there's something that you folks want to discuss a little bit that you may be watching in common or just in general, you can feel free to go ahead here. I know Kestrel, you have 16 total, and you dropped 2 of them. So, man, dropping after 7, that's rough for Sasaki and peeps.
Yeah, it was always kind of on the fence there. But since I do have so many, and I keep having to catch up with shows because I've been out of town doing other stuff, and I'm gonna be out of town, out of country, out of hemisphere for a very long time. I'm like, I don't need to come back to this. I know that it's not gonna get better. So yeah, not worth it. It's in a different way than Undead Unluck. It's also just coming up with new shit to throw in every episode, and it's just getting way too weighed down under its own convoluted bullshit, and it's just not working together well. Also, the main character, who's 50, has kind of a weird teenage harem growing, which is not great.
Oh god. I see that you also dropped Buchigiri, and that show is interesting to me just because I feel like every time I see a clip of it, I'm getting gaslit because they'll show a little clip of animation that looks really good, and some really good character designs, thick line art, really powerful fighting animation and stuff. And I love me a good delinquent character. I feel like I fall for those characters pretty easily, but just everything else I've heard about the show is just pretty mid. So that's very
yeah, that fell off real fast, real hard. Definitely each episode of the 4 that I watched was monumentally worse than the one before it. Yeah, it I don't know if it had any idea what it was trying to do, but it was not doing it very well. Once it tried to add some sort of plot, it just got worse because you couldn't even excuse that everything was just a joke anymore, and it made even less sense. And the plot that it was trying to show you was just complete a mess of nonsense. So yeah, it was not good, and the tone was not really appropriate for what it was trying to do either.
Unfortunate.
Yeah.
I don't think I have anything else to say besides I wish Metallic Rouge was a little better, but I feel like it can maybe turn it around in the second half.
That's a mech show, right? Sorta, kinda.
It's more like
I know that's what DJ said about it.
That is all that DJ said about it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it a mech show. They have almost tokusatsu style suits in it, but it's more like Blade Runner. Are robots good or evil? Do robots have freedom? Very Asimov vibes, but it does them in a very pretty unimpressive way. So it's just it has the ingredients of an interesting show, but none of them are being fully fully cooked. So, it's a little underwhelming right now, which is unfortunate because I was really excited as this being like a anniversary project for Bones. So, just kind of very middling so far. There was like a cool like dream sequency kind of trippier episode, but I feel like it didn't really add too much yet.
Seems like both that and Buchigiri are like these big prestige project original anime by like all-star staff and studios, and they're just both like total misfires, total disappointments.
Which kills me because like that just makes it that much more clear that like studios are only going to continue buying into, sequels and light novel adaptations and stuff, which, it's fine, give the people what they want, but I mean, it's just sad that like the space for original anime is like just dwindling further and further, and clearly it's not being like there's no show pony, so it's like why would anyone try to do anything like that? So it's unfortunate.
Yeah, I wonder if they just don't have the time to like properly plan or something, because it seems like all the pieces should be there for it to succeed, and they just end up falling apart very quickly.
Yeah, who knows what it is, but yeah, unfortunate that they're pretty half-baked.
Yeah.
Kestrel, how about
a sign
yourself?
a sign of affection isn't that rapey.
Really? Okay. I was when DJ said that, I was like, damn, I thought that was supposed to be the wholesome show, but of the season, but okay.
Yeah, I mean,
What does he mean by that exactly? Like, obviously that, the word has a clear connotation, but
yeah, I guess it's just that like the boyfriend touches the girlfriend, I don't know, without being prompted. That's kind of it. Like he, puts his hand on her head pretty often, stuff like that.
Head pats.
Yeah, head pats and like occasionally touches her face and stuff. Like that's about it.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. I mean, I get what he's saying about like, shoujo manga and anime where there is kind of that atmosphere of, predatory behavior being attractive and kind of selling that to the young female audience. And you get those vibes a little bit from their dynamic and his characterization and her like extreme innocence. And then the addition of the disability on top of that makes it, potentially a little more problematic. But I don't know, I feel like it's about as mild as you can get.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that sounded a little strong, especially when there's like literally several shows this season that are about like slaves and like torturing magical girls sexually and stuff.
Right. Yeah, like this show
seems pretty tame.
These are all adults in college. The main characters, spoilers, are now officially in a relationship, and nothing has even discussed the idea of anything sexual.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Holding hands, maybe in your dreams.
Pretty much. That's about where we're at, yeah. Like these 20-year-olds who are in a relationship have about gotten to the point of holding hands.
Oh, man. Pan's so funny.
Well, it seems like we've kind of gotten it all out of our system, at least for now. So I think it's about as good of a time as any. We move on to recommendations if anybody has them.
I will recommend that nobody buys Helldivers 2 because I bought Helldivers 2 and there's no room in the servers for anyone else, so don't buy it so that I can play it.
Nice. I'm sure that's going to work.
Yeah, that's it for me.
recommendation. My recommendation is for Banishers, Ghosts of New Eden. That game is awesome. And I know there's a million games on the market right now. So don't go play Helldivers 2. Go play Banishers, Ghost of New Eden. There you go.
Kestrel, what about you?
Yeah, so I won't take Kane's obvious recommendation of Demon Slayer to the Hashira training in theaters this week. So I'll go with...
No, that's strong. That's a good choice by you.
we can both recommend it. That's fair. So for some Blu-ray releases, we got the second core of Spy Family. That comes with the limited edition box. Some fun little extras in there. Also Paprika, after like 15, 20 years of its Blu-ray being out, it is getting a 4K Ultra HD Steelbook limited edition release.
Oh, I need that.
Yeah.
Are they fixing the overscan?
I assume so. God, I hope so.
Because boy, that would be perhaps the shittiest 4K.
I think that was probably the first anime on Blu-ray, at least in the US. So yeah, they were certainly learning things. Yeah, and for some manga releases, I just got my first Vinland Saga Deluxe Edition. The initial release of that manga was already like semi-deluxe. It was, hardcover omnibus, but now they've got this new edition that's much bigger, higher quality paper. All the color pages actually on paper. 3 volumes to a book instead of 2. Kind of like a faux leather embossed cover. And some new extras in there, interviews with Yukimura and stuff like that. So that's really nice. Definitely check that out.
I didn't know this beforehand, but apparently that's like the original size that it was published in. So
that makes sense, yeah.
So the 2-in-1s originally were like a shrunken down.
And like, I assume the original Japanese like tankobon were smaller than those still. Because they are bigger than your standard volumes.
So
but yeah, this is bigger.
Does that mean the old omnibus 2-in-1s are no longer going to be printing anymore? Like they're not going to make...
They're going to keep them going, yeah. I mean, maybe when they catch up, but then we have to wait for Japan to release 3 volumes instead of 2.
Yeah.
And I assume that for all the people who have bought the original run and don't want to upgrade to this one, they're going to keep putting out the regular 2-in-1s.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time deciding because I just finally got all of the Berserk deluxe hardcovers, and then it's like, I already have all 13 of the Vinlands so far. Do I just like go for the upgrade now?
I know. I mean, it's definitely a fraction as big of an upgrade as Berserk was.
Yeah.
Because, it's already a hardcover. It's already bigger than normal volume. It's already multiple volumes in one.
Yeah.
So,
that's true.
Yeah.
Maybe later on down the line, but they look amazing. If you don't own it yet, I feel like that's the way to go because that art deserves it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's, one of the greatest manga of all time. So if you have not gotten into it, and especially if these go on sale at any point, it'd be a great acquisition.
Mm-hmm.
And then also for some non-weeb stuff, I will throw out Planet Earth 3. Just got its 4K Blu-ray release in the US. It had previously been streamed on AMC Plus for US audiences, but it was not 4K, not HDR, and just subject to constant, really bad streaming quality degradation. So you lose like a huge percentage of what makes those nature documentaries so stunning to watch.
The whole point of watching them, basically.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It was painful.
Graphical showcases, and it's like,
Yeah. So now you can watch it the way it was supposed to be seen.
No, I'd rather listen to Bit Crushed Attenborough.
Exactly.
I saw that you also posted this in our Discord, but the Tiger Lab vinyl for Death Parade is pretty sweet. And that one, unlike some of their other ones, didn't immediately sell out like Berserk and Hunter x Hunter. So if you're interested in
I
the
need that Hunter x
Death
Hunter
Grade LP, good luck.
Yeah.
But go to Tower Records while you're in Japan. You never know, might luck out.
True, yeah.
Yeah. Is that all the
my only
Rex
recommendation is to not watch the Demon Slayer quote unquote movie. And the reason that this keeps happening is because fucking weebs keep going and watching these movies. Stop. It's not a movie. They don't even do the justice of editing them to be together as if it were a movie. They're literally loading up a Crunchyroll queue in the movie theater when you sit in it.
So good. Number 1 film in Japan, by the way.
It's so stupid.
Top of the box office. Fantastic.
Just painful.
You don't even get the good episodes, other than if you wanted to watch the end of the previous season, because you're getting the exposition plot episodes.
It was so good. Channing Tatum showed up to the New York red carpet premiere.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, you didn't see that?
No. What the hell?
Yep.
Okay.
Channing Tatum's daughter apparently is a big Demon Slayer fan.
Oh.
That's the reason.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Demon Slayer. I just think this whole business that they got going on up in here is a travesty.
It is a fantastic racket.
Yeah, because they don't have to put any effort into it at all. Zero.
Just printing bills. That's all they're doing.
Yep.
Oof.
The best you'll get out of it is a neat poster. So, yeah, and I guess maybe the bragging rights to say that you saw the episodes a couple weeks before they came to the service, you probably also pay for, unless you don't pay for it, which, okay, then fine. At least you paid some money to support it, but whatever. Different conversation.
It's not as if, because like my coworker went and saw the Swordsmith Village last year, just like on its own, and there's like absolutely nothing that these can do to stand alone, because they're literally just the last 2 episodes of a season of television and then the first one of the next.
Jesus.
Yep.
That is heinous.
So even if you just tried to watch the Demon Slayer movies, quote unquote, it would just be skipping like 10 episodes.
You would see the climax of the battle with the villain, and then the setup to the next arc.
Yep.
And you know what else you're getting in that setup to the next arc while I'm fucking at it? All you're getting is Demon Slayer's terrible brand of humor.
No. The only time you really have to deal with Zenitsu.
Yeah, is in those first couple episodes
baby.
where he's going to be inevitably screaming at somebody.
Hey, he wasn't in the Swordsmith Village arc.
Best arc.
For that alone.
So yeah, I do not have any recommendations other than something to not do.
Mm.
But yeah, I think if that's everything, we can wrap it up for the evening here. So, as usual, Kestrel, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you and then where they can find this podcast?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at FullMetalKilma. You can find the podcast wherever you find podcasts. Subscribe, rate, and review. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts while it lasts. Chris puts us up on his YouTube channel. We're on Spotify, SoundCloud, all those places. fandompost.com. And on social media, Twitter and Facebook at Phantom Radio. You can also get in contact with us there or email us at phantompostradio@gmail.com.
Hellshake Brando on all the socials. Not much weeb stuff going on besides recording the pod and making the thumbnail. So that's all I got going.
A very valuable position.
Thank you.
Perhaps the most valuable, in fact.
Yeah, creating the thumbnail.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that is literally the highlight of every episode for me.
I take pride in it, so.
You do a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Kate, what about yourself?
What about myself? I'm online at Blue Sky. That's it. I'm reviewing Maomao and Delicious and Dungeon for the fanpost.com and a bunch of random light novels and manga also. Read my reviews on there. If you really need to track me down, you can find me on Blue Sky. That is my presence on the internet. I'm other places too, but that's, the easy part.
Very good. And as always, you can find me here bitching about these fucking stupid fake movies. But as always, thank you everyone for listening. I'd love to hear your opinions about stuff. Doesn't even matter if it's good or bad, because clearly they're not stopping me from saying any of my bad opinions, so we're not going to stop you. So tune in, catch us wherever you can get your podcasts, and we will talk to you next time.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.